Welcome to the Rocky Mountain Artificial Intelligence Interest Group. This was a video of a webinar that we did on April the 11th, 2023, entitled ChatGPT, a Deeper Dive. For future meetings, check out our meetup group or check out our website, RMAIIG.org. Enjoy.
Okay, let me introduce our first speaker. Dr. Tom Ye is an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Colorado. He earned his PhD from MIT through the study of vision-based user interfaces. He's a leading researcher in human-computer interaction who has studied the use of generative AI in introductory programming and K-12 settings. And he's done some really cool stuff with 3D printing of imagery in children's books for blind readers. I was watching a video on it today, and it was really, really cool. Tonight, he's going to be speaking about large language models, such as GPT-4, which drives ChatGPT, as well as how these models are created and trained. Let me introduce Dr. Tom Ye.
Thank you, Dane, for such a wonderful introduction. Just to check my audio, can you hear me well?
Yes.
I'm going to follow Richard's lead to start with a ski reference, which is very appropriate for Rocky Mountain group. A couple months ago, I was just dropping off my 5-year-old Isaac at the daycare center. And then on the way out, so I bumped into another parent, and we're talking about the weekend. And then the parent, the other dad, and he told me that, oh, he brought Ethan, is another kid's name, up to the winter park to learn ski. And in the moment, there was this guilt that was like coming up. And Isaac is my son. He turned 5. I have not brought him to a ski resort yet, not to mention teaching him ski. So I was just reflecting upon myself that as a parent in Colorado, would I be considered as a failure if I never taught my kid how to ski? What do you think? Yes or no? Maybe yes. I guess Isaac, one day he grows up, he might hate me for this. Because so I thought I probably need a little bit more motivation to start thinking about it, because on the weekend we actually don't go to, like, unlike other parents, they go to ski during the winter time. We actually bring our kids to a Korean school, and so this is the little cute things that Isaac did in his Korean school. They make a little name tag. You can see this like Korean letters. This is his name. So this is actually important to our cultural heritage. I'm not even Korean. My wife is Korean. I'm actually Taiwanese. So to me, that for us, well, actually that's how we invest our weekend to bring Isaac to Korean school so he can learn Korean. So kind of between this, I thought, oh, well, I probably need a little motivation to think about bringing Isaac to a ski resort. I heard about the traffic, I heard about the cost, and it's very expensive. I ski myself and my wife doesn't, so it's going to be just a lot of work and intimidating. So I turned to ChatGPT for help. That perhaps ChatGPT is pretty good at being able to come up with a convincing argument for me to start considering bringing Isaac to a ski school. So this is what I wrote. Can you create a plan for convincing parents to teach their kids to ski late or early? Actually, this is what I want to show you, early. So in particular, I would like to use because I'm a father, so my target audience should be fathers who live in Colorado and who are into Korean culture. And so that's what ChatGPT came up. Sure, here's a plan to convince fathers who live in Colorado and are interested in Korean cultures to teach their kids to ski early. And so there are a few points. First, start by highlighting the benefits. According to research, skiing can help children develop resilience, confidence, and self-esteem. Learning to ski involves facing challenges, taking risks, and overcoming fears. And you can back up citing studies on the effects of skiing on the self-esteem of adolescents. Another article by Hattie and Marsh, the impact of outdoor adventure education on adolescent self-esteem. Wow, this sounds really convincing to me. That started with the benefits. And also, if we look down and start to make some cultural connections as well, consider you can connect the benefits of skiing to Korean culture. So skiing is pretty big in Korea right now. And can reference articles such as why skiing is so big, such a big deal in South Korea. The Korean wave hits the ski slopes. It's really good articles. And then even address some of the fear I have, encouraging fathers to take action, to address any concern or objection I might have, for instance, about there's a ski rental option to deal with the cost, and enrolling kids in ski lessons to ensure that they're proper safety techniques, so I don't have to worry about safety. And I thought it was pretty convincing. What do you think? What do you think about this argument? Do you think it will be effective in convincing me to actually take Isaac? Maybe it's too late for this season. We only have a couple of weeks left. Maybe like next year. And so I thought I've been hearing artificial intelligence has been the hype, and the self-driving car is supposed to work this year, and Alexa is supposed to take over the entire internet, entire world, but that did not happen. Alexa, so self-driving car, Tesla is supposed to drive me to Winter Park through the I-70 traffic, but it has not happened yet. And Alexa is supposed to teach my kid Korean. It did not happen. I still have to take my kids to Korean school on Saturday. So those are kind of hypes that did not really materialize. But this seems to be quite real. That sounds very human-like and really makes convincing argument. If I actually come back to it and actually end up taking my kids to ski resort, I will consider it is a resounding success. But at the same time, when I put back my professor's hat, so I like to kind of do some fact checking on some of these claims. For instance, I would like to look up these articles. I would like to know that what kind of studies are being done there, which research group actually performed the study. What is the sample size? How many participants were involved in the study? What is the effect size? Did they actually see some significant statistical significance in their study? And then when I Googled this, guess what? This article did not exist. It was the made up article. And then how about this news article? Or this pretty interesting article, the Korean wave hits a ski slope. It's at Korean time. I read the article there before, and then I looked it up. It did not exist either. So I started to think that might be something that's missing there. So that it's making a convincing argument, but factually, that is some question to be asked. But it still doesn't take away the fact that these are compelling arguments. This possibly true. It is facing challenges, taking risks, overcoming fear. I could imagine they could be true. There could be some other article that actually studied this and found some effect, but just not this particular article. So there's some this property of this generative AI that we kind of need to be aware of about its limitation. There's some opportunities that is creating a lot of interesting, useful and compelling information and text. But and it's very plausible. But there's a difference between something being plausible and something being true. So the fact that this article were written is not true. But the statement, this could involve facing challenges, ski involve facing challenges. This statement could be true. So there's a difference between the sources, the truthfulness of the sources and truthfulness of the statement themselves. So something to be aware of. So we can probably go on and on about what else ChatGPT can do, and you probably hear a bit more from other panelists as well. But then my role here today, according to Dan, is I would like to be a bit more professor. I'm gonna tell you that hopefully take you on a journey from deeper, take a deep dive into ChatGPT, kind of pop the hood open, trying to tease it apart and to try to explain some of the why you work, how does it work, what does a ChatGPT or more like large language model learn, what they actually learn. So that's my goal of my presentation today, is to give you a little bit taste of why it is working the way it is working. So I'm gonna address two questions. The first question is, I did note here. Yeah, I'm seeing it correctly. Okay, so large language model. So there's a lot of AI tools. And so I studied. So last year I thought it was just hype, but then this year I'm convinced it's actually something really special. So why is LLM, large language model, so special? So we talked about these three things: the emergence, the unification, or acceleration. These are something kind of new that we've never seen before in AI research. So about emergence. So a lot of this intelligent behavior just all of a sudden emerge out of nowhere. And so the good analogy I'd like to share with you is, imagine you are back in the 1400s. So you are tasked to travel across the Atlantic Ocean, and you have no idea how far you have to go. So you go for 100 miles, you came back with nothing, just ocean. And you ask for, can I have 10 times the resource, 10 more boats, 10 times as big? And they go again, and still come back nothing. They ask for a resource, 10 times more resources, 10 times more crew members. You go again, you come back, it's still just ocean, you got nothing. So you keep repeating the process. Every time you ask for 10 times more resources. So that's what's happening with AI research for some of this. We just keep, this is its method. We keep adding resources, but we keep seeing like bad performance. So normally you would just probably conclude that after you go for 10, 1, 10, 2, 10, 3 computing power, 10, 5, 10, 6, you like study all the time, the performance is kind of flat. So the reasonable assumption is that maybe you should just change direction. It's not going to work. And there are some, and then you continue, there are OpenAI and some company like, especially OpenAI, they keep pushing the boundary, keep pushing, solving the scalability problem, keep pushing, but still getting random performance in many intelligent tasks. And last year, all of a sudden, once you reach 10 to the 20th, and some of the tasks they've been getting random performance, just shut up all of a sudden. Nobody has expected this. And if you keep going toward west, Atlantic Ocean, you keep not seeing the lane, most likely you conclude there's no lane. Maybe they just keep going ocean all the time. But all of a sudden, just when you got far enough, it's just all of a sudden emerged. It was not linear, like gradual incremental progress, just like shot up as there's emergence of intelligence. The one of the tasks, for instance, in being able to interpret question answering in Persian, and being able to find reason about the connection between different concepts. All of a sudden, it started to behave intelligently. So this emergence property of large language model is something really special. And another thing is unification of large language model as an approach in many subfields of artificial intelligence. So my field is computer vision. If you draw a person, so I'm working on dealing with this both two eyes, intelligent related with eyes. And then you have natural language. You're dealing with what you hear and what you said, and you have robotics. And then you deal with probably like building robotic hand, and you have two hands to do tasks. So every single, and you have some kind of reasoning, you're dealing with your head, and there's different subfield in computer, in AI, artificial visual intelligence, and then all develop own techniques, and in some fields, the techniques it work well, might not work well in other techniques. But last year, we started seeing indication that large language model or transformer-based approach just beat all the other approach out of the water in every single field. And all of a sudden, people in my field, people in natural language processing, in machine learning, in robotics, we all are pursuing the same thing. We are seeing the unification of research effort. So imagine a whole bunch of AI researchers who used to work in silos. Now we all work toward the same goal. And that leads to acceleration of the progress of AI. And this acceleration is that you hear this word from Turing Award winner, you use the word unexpected. I hear this from my mentors, professors who have retired, lots of my colleagues, which it was unexpected. This rate of acceleration that for instance, when ChatGPT 3.5 that came out last year, I started to do very well in many the exams, AP exams, and it didn't do quite well in the law bar exam. It still scored 10 percentile, but in the span of 6 months, ChatGPT 4, guess what? From 10% to 90%, it started to be able to pass the bar exam and outperform 90% of the new lawyers. And this, what is the difference between this time? Less than 1 year. So this is insane level of acceleration. It got people worried. Anyway, so there's like 3 things I'd like to highlight today. Why large language model is so special, such a big deal. It's not anything before. I just was in the defense of a master thesis right before this meeting, and I just again have another conversation with my colleagues and saying, "Oh, our students are scared." Problem they've been working on for years. All of a sudden, this large language model came out, solved it. And what are they going to do? Are they going to change the topic? So it's a lot of uncertainty about AI research. But anyway, jump to the second topic. And I think I have now another 10, 12 minutes, I believe. So what can the large language model learn? I want to take a little tour journey about we can actually use ChatGPT to give us a little bit glimpse of what is under the hood, what kind of intelligent behavior it has. All right, so you could follow my lead. So I'm going to talk about embeddings ideas that we have this high dimensional concept. For instance, just say dogs, and there are about 360 breeds of dogs. So if you want to represent this, normally you have really, really, really long 360 dimension. Every single position, it denotes one dog. So for instance, this is Dalmatian, there is German Shepherd, and so on. And embedding this idea is that it could be mapped to a lower dimensional representation, for instance, just 5 properties. For instance, what do all dogs have in common? How can we differentiate them? Some dogs are what? Some dogs are what? For instance, some dogs are big, some dogs are small. There's one dimension. And so this is embedding. The large language model, it looked at the entire internet, see patterns, and somehow find a way to embed lots of concepts, billions of ideas down into a lower dimensional space that can be actually reasoned with. And so, in fact, it sounds very abstract, but I found what's interesting about ChatGPT is that you can actually ask ChatGPT to give you a little bit insight of what it is. And so I give you this idea, show you some demo. All these things you can kind of do yourself as well. And so let's start with dog species. How many dogs breed? So they are about 360. Okay, 360. I remember 360 species. So this by 10 breeds, and describe. And for each breed, describe 5 properties. Okay, so it kind of give a little sense of, or perhaps there are probably more than 5 properties, But for all the dog breed, ChatGPT has learned that the most important properties are size, coat, temperament, training, and exercise need. And so these are different, the top 5. But I can start generating responses there. I'm gonna start generating. Okay, and then if I repeat this query, and then and then I could also see in a table, so it's easier to view in this way. So it started to get a sense that it is somehow it has read enough articles on the internet, started to see patterns that there are lots of words being described and associated with different dog breed, and then have seen them all compared to other animals, and it believed that this origin, size, coat, temperament, and uses are kind of important. And so you could reverse engineer in this way. So these are the 5 properties under origin, size, coat, temperament, and uses, and associated with Chihuahua. So if I ask ChatGPT, what is a dog breed that are just copy and paste all this in. So the Chihuahua is a dog breed that fits the description. You can see this map go back and forth. So you can try this query yourself. You start to see that a lot of different ideas and concepts there's an embedding that ChatGPT has learned that map this massive high dimensional representation into a lower dimension. So this is kind of once the start. You can try this on many things, different cat breeds, or different bird species, or different food items, and different things, music genres, all these kind of things. In fact, I found it's quite transparent about it because I queried it, it will tell me. So I'll imagine that if one trying to be not transparent, they could probably shut down all this query that I'm trying to use to get under the hood of this large language model. So another thing I would like to show you is the association, is that you give any two concepts, and you can then ChatGPT learn whether they are associated with each other or not by seeing a lot of this. So I do the experiment like this. So I will say like, what is the music associated with Denver, for instance? So tell me this with folk music, okay? Or so I could even say something like Denver and snow is association. You can compare two association, kind of higher level reasoning. And Seattle, rain, which association is stronger? So this association is also a concept of the weight of this association ChatGPT or large language model has learned. And so associate, in fact, Seattle and rain is considered to be stronger than associated between Denver and snow. So it's to give a sense that there's association, but there are some representation of the strengths of this association between every single pair of concept, and also every single pair of the pairs of concept. And it keep going recursively, every single pair of the pair of concept, because this network are layered on top of each other. They can keep building a higher and higher level of logic between any associations. And so, and is which music is most associated with New Orleans? Anybody knows? New Orleans. Jazz. And so it generates a whole bunch of other stuff. And which music is most associated with? Oh, you cannot see the screen?
Now it's good.
Okay, so I guess you not able to see any of those examples. Were you able to see these examples?
We were able to see them. It was just that you were still on the table for one view, so I was letting you know to go back up to it. So.
Okay, so I'm showing an example of association with which music most associated with, say, Vienna. So it tells you, oh, it's most associated with classical music. Okay, and then again, this is not an example. You can compare the strengths of this association. Vienna, classical music, and New Orleans jazz, which association is stronger? Okay, all right. So this association between, so it's then that's kind of worthy in this. So both they are both association, but the jazz are very strong, but it's difficult to directly compare. And so, but then in this case, there was kind of equally strong, but you could push it hard enough and tell you association. And so, and it like give you and the last thing, the third things that ChatGPT has learned about be useful is the contrast. You can also learn that how these two things are very, very different in what dimensions. For instance, I will say in the query I like to use, I found it useful to actually probe ChatGPT large language model tell you that is in what dimensions. So can sometimes say I can focus on in which 5 dimensions are Seattle and Denver most different. So it'll tell you that, well, climate is very different, and geography is quite different, culture different, demographic different, and landmark different. So you can imagine that in this case, I could infer from this is that the large language model there's a representation of Seattle and Denver. There are many, many dimensions. So among those dimensions, climate, geography, culture, demographic, and landmark are the most contrasting dimensions that probably, if you compare them, if you have put a number on it, that their numbers will be most different along these dimensions. So what large language model is able to learn by seeing a lot of examples, all these articles, all the videos on the internet to learn this kind of association with contrast. And the last one I would like to talk about is the concept of the likelihood. Is about, so a lot of this is actually more probabilistic in nature, or what is more likely. The explanation that was offered to me about bringing my kid to ski is a lot of articles being cited. They are not true articles, but those are the very, very probable articles. It's very likely humanity as a whole could have written those articles with this title by some of those individuals, by those names. But whether or not it's true, in this closed system, the large language model doesn't go out and to do some fact checking, so it doesn't know whether it's true or not. It's usually up to the user to do some fact checking. But you can imagine there's some effort to try and integrate a large language model closed system like this, and also with the ability to query Wikipedia or internet to do some automatic fact checking. But the last example about likelihood I want to show you is that you could also do something like what is the food maybe clothing items. Actually, what are the clothing items? The tense actually doesn't most associated with Denver. What do you think the first one? Top hat, flip flop? No, it's not. The first one is usually hiking boots. Are you surprised by that? No. Flannel shirts, sun hats, ski jacket. So what I can learn from this is that there are just enough articles that contain reference to Denver and reference to people wearing hiking boots, flannel shirts, sun hat, ski jacket, and so on, cowboy boots. And then you do a same query, but for the different cities, and what clothing items most associated with say another different place. What is Miami? Let's say Miami. What do you expect? So you see that there's a different likelihood or distribution of a particular clothing style. And then when ChatGPT is like large language model trying to answering, they usually is trying to sort them by which is most likely a swimwear, sunglasses. A swimwear in this is a bit less likely Denver in a Denver. Okay, and so so I can even, but this is on the rank order. If you like to know that maybe there's some kind of underlying number, this actually, I'm surprised that actually ChatGPT will tell me. So what are the clothing items most associated with Denver? And I'll say for each provide a score. So provide a score. You can kind of study the detail. They probably sound sort of 0 and 1 in machine learning. Usually the weights between 0 and 1, and they're trying to map that to probably a score of 9. So there's a score of 9. They have flannel shirt, but I can also do like another query. I change one word from most associated to least associated. And it usually is where things start to get interesting. It's trying to still give you swimwear to be really, really not likely sunglasses. You can start it. Remember the query about Miami I just did? And swimwear and sunglasses were the most likely clothing items for the city of Miami. And so anyway, so I hope I give you some flavor of what's actually underneath the hood of large language model. And there are some queries like the one I demonstrated today that allow you to give a little bit insight, ask ChatGPT to tell you that what it has seen, what is his model of the world in terms of these probabilities and likelihood of this association with the properties they are assigned to the concepts such as dog breeds and the contrast and between two different, how far away are two different concepts in this knowledge space that large language model has. All right. So how much I think I run out of time, right?
Yes, we will come back to you for Q&A. We already have some questions coming in. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I definitely learned a lot, and you're good at pushing ChatGPT to new boundaries.